Hello YouTube! Today we're going to be doing another Total War gameplay. In this particular one, it's going to be me and once again my friend Jimmy, who's over there, and we are both going to be playing as Great Britain, and we're going to be going against two French players, who you'll see. And yes, we are in TeamSpeak again, so we have full coordination, and my first instinct, well, our first instinct, is to kind of combine and get close to each other, so that way we can be a little more organized. So I'm just pulling my cav back, and I figured, I didn't show the original setup in the beginning, but there's actually good reason to do that. For example, my friend Jimmy, he has, he's reorganizing to put his cav in front because he wants to take the hill fast. Whereas I'm doing more of a slow and steady approach. I've got all my lights in, these are light infantry, they're not the skirmishers, because skirmishers are not as good because they don't have light foot formation in the same way that the light foot actually do. So I end up putting the line infantry behind the light foot because that's standard procedure. Now, admittedly, I could have pulled these line infantry back a bit more, but since we were going up a hill, I figured it'd be important to try and gain as much as I could, and then I put all my, some reserve units, like my King's German Legion, my Highland Foot, and a militia unit, along with an extra regular foot I had in the back as reserve, because I just wanted my regular line to be up in the front for the initial assault. And we keep our armies linked up pretty well here. Admittedly, I could have been a bit forward, but since I knew his cav was charging up, I wasn't too concerned about that at all. So I advanced my light foot up a bit more because he tells me, hey, kind of want to keep things organized, and in order to keep them armies linked, I did that, and then I proceeded to move my line up, which again is my mistake. No, I did not keep this big gap, which would have been smart, which is unfortunate, especially considering how, there's some reasonable tactics as to why you do everything that you want to be doing. And then, of course, I try and reorganize the line, but I'm going to make a point here in a minute, and I'm not fast-forwarding because, well, this battle wasn't as long as we thought it would be, and also there's an important lesson I want to teach in this particular game, and I know this is mainly about explaining what happens, so maybe you can get some insight, but I just found this trick to be really cool. So I was talking to him about how we're going to move up in the beginning, and admittedly we did have a long setup, but yeah, I made a mistake here. I totally was trying to move people as a group. I wanted to test that, so I managed to reorganize, but then before I can fix my blunder, the game ends up starting on us, and I can't do any of the quick moves beforehand because I'm scrambling around with controls. And I am going to pause here just to explain and show off all the armies now that the French have spawned. I have 5 light foot, as that was the rules. We have no cannon. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that is. This is his units. Sorry, no wonder I was a bit confused. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 3 units here of foot. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 foot infantry, but I thought I had 8. 7 foot infantry, fencible, which is like the crappy militia because I had extra money. That's the 7th foot that I have, and then a King's German Legion, Highland Foot, and oh no, it was 8 because I have 3 here, 4, and 4. So I had 8 foot, 5 light infantry. Then I was bringing 1 pair of regular a pair of light dragoons, and then a regular pair. I don't know why I keep saying pair. Then a regular unit of heavy dragoons. And then, of course, the KGL and the Highland Foot in the back with General Staff, who has 2 bars on him. My partner, who was also playing as the British, he had 1, 2, 3. He had 4 units. Yeah, he only brought light dragoons, but he had 4 of them, which is more cav than I brought. Up here, he had light foot. So these are all light foot. The 4. No, I guess 3. He brought 3 light foot infantry, and he brought 1, 2, 3, 4. No, he brought 5 light foot anyway, and two King's German Legion foot, and a special limited edition. I don't know. Do these guys really look any different? I guess technically those guys are yellow, so that counts. Of the 88th. And then in the back for reserve, he has some more Coldstream, and that he brought the Duke of Wellington, which was pretty cool. That's why his army's a bit smaller than mine, but his is a bit more tougher. So then if we go and look at the French player on the left, now they were all kind of strung out in a big long line, so I can't really differentiate between who's who. So he has line infantry pretty much all spread out. 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy brought a long line. 5, 6, 7, 8. Holy crap. 9, 10, 11, 12. He brings 12 units of line infantry, and he brings chevaux légers, lancers, and he brings 3 of them along with the general staff. But one thing to keep in mind is that when we were setting up, we noticed both these guys were going France. Originally, we were planning on having my ally. He wanted to go as Russia, but when we saw they had 2 French players, we decided, hey, let's just both be UK, because our line infantry is better. And since French line infantry aren't that good, the strength of France is cav. I mean, usually if with France you want at least minimum of 4 cav, because that's what they're good at. So the other player, he's brought in militia, 2 young guard, and a chevaux légers lancer unit, and a 7E regiment. I'm not too familiar with the French, but they're just different cav, as far as I know. As usual, he brought the max he could bring, 5 light infantry, I think, assuming these are... No, those are Polish legions. Okay, so he brought 2 Polish legions, 2 more sets of cav. See, this guy knows how to play France because he has a lot more cav. He has 4 cav in total. And then, of course, he has lots of Fusiliers of the line. And I know, and again, like in this matchup, you're not going to want to be... you don't want to be the French player, because in a line versus line battle, you're going to lose. That's why, notice none of these guys brought Old Guard, which is the best unit in the game, and you're really missing out because the French infantry just don't hold up. Like, my lights are about on par with their lights, but the guy who I'm going to go against doesn't end up bringing any. So I kind of have this... I look over and I notice, yeah, I got this range advantage, so I feel totally comfortable getting an advance. Now, because of my poor position and mistake, I have to reposition and replot out. As you can see by my troop movements, this is what I was thinking of doing. I was setting up my light here. I brought up my cav on the front to take the hill, and these cav were marching slowly, and we were coordinating. The other guy was doing the same thing. Since his units were already in position to do what he wanted to do, he could just walk up nice and easily, and I'm saying props to him, you know. I'm still not a perfect player, and stuff like this happens where I have to move slower, and that's just the fact of it. But when I was playing, I didn't realize how far back he actually started himself, because we started pretty much at the front of our deployment zone. So we're just gonna make a advance, although he makes a quicker move against his opponent. And this is a pretty extensive battle, which I may cut into 2 parts, depending on how long this goes, because there's a lot of aspects. And in fact, you know what? All of my partners' stuff, that'll be in part 2. I'm just gonna focus right now on the movements I'm making as a choice, and then I'm going to actually come back to this replay in second part in order to go over what my ally was doing, because we have 2 very different play styles, him and I, and we both tackle pretty much the same issues that British has to deal with, which is cav, in different ways. And we do, for the sake of this, this is my units right here, these are mine, and this is my ally. So we do get a bit of interaction towards the end, but in the beginning it's really about these one-on-one engagements, which is what happens in a 2v2. So I don't know if these are hidden or not, but I put them in the woods because I thought, hey, if they're hidden, maybe he'll forget about the cav and he'll do something foolish. So he moves up all his line very slowly, but these rocks, they're gonna break you up and stuff, so I already knew that and I was prepared for it. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, you'll see it later. So I move up my cav on the right because I noticed that on the mini-map he has cav on coming on my left, because again, like I said, French cav is very dangerous, so I knew I had to commit my cav forces. And as you can see, I have and I'm trying to spread out to match my opponent. Because of the position of these rocks, I couldn't get a good spread, because see this back here, that's a waste of firepower. And I knew that, but there wasn't much I could do, because if I extended any farther, I'd be vulnerable to a cav charge. And then I have my reserve units coming up in the back, and main line stretching out, and I'm trying to get a good flank around him, because I'm betting on this rock and talking with my partner about how to deal with that. So as I move up, I notice that the French player is he's running up. So well, when I was playing, I just noticed the flags were showing up pretty quick. So I did my best to run men. Believe it or not, these men are running. Even though it says they're walking, I hit the run button. It's just because of the hill and them being light infantry, they just weren't that good. And since none of us were Russia, because we were going to be Russia because of the snow, we wouldn't get fatigued by snow combat. But it's alright, because his two cav units, there's 45 in each of them. My cav units are even for the light dragoons. But you'll notice my heavy dragoons, though they're the same, they're heavy cav. And what he's bringing is, I'm pretty sure, the light infantry of France. Or they're, well, not light infantry, like cav. So my French opponent does a really good job of extending the flanks on all around, you know? He's like coming down to try and stop me. And I realize this, I retreat my men, because I don't want to get shot at. I think he takes a shot, but I don't know how much damage I take. Now you'll notice on the train, I did a lot of zooming down when I was playing. So see these guys? They can't see my men because of this hill. So these men down here are totally safe. And I don't have to worry about it. And I mess up here. I'm willing to admit my mistakes. I thought these men could see, and I do a little shifting, but they're just firing into the hill. Fortunately for me, oh yeah, this French unit got hidden because of being in the woods. Eventually, when these guys start opening fire, they also, yeah, you can hear the drums, they're going to fire also into the hill. So we're just going to be wasting our ammo, which is fine as long as we both do it, for me. So I was smart, and I saw this force moving over, and I pulled over my cav. And this is a great example of why you want like reserve, especially my Highland foot, because they're 120 elite infantry, you know, they're just like old guard. So he tries to get in a better position, but again, because of this hill, and I admit, still, I made a bit of a mistake. Now these men, they might be able to see, like, these guys who are far, kind of. They're still pretty much firing into the hill, because, look, I'm not taking damage, and he's not taking damage, and it becomes a stalemate in that area. Now over here, I just let my middle sit, because I realized, you know what? Just like in the first game we played, I don't need to move my middle forward, because the flank is important. So I get light infantry to start bashing away. Now, I was concerned about this extra cav charging up through here, so that's why I didn't do a full takeover, because I was unconfident in my ability to protect. Now over here, the French player makes his charge, so I, of course, bring in all my cav. This was a bit of a mistake, because even though it's 3v2, you really don't want to do that. But fortunately, I had 2 cav going on 1, and this was split. So even though he had full force on this cav was split too much to deal with it, and so the morale was a bit shaky, you know. And he does do a good job of setting up light infantry, but because these are, I don't know if it's because of the unit he chose, but he doesn't put up stakes, which is what you want to do if your enemy cav is like beating you. Like this French cav, that's not going to make it. These units all keep firing, but damage is not taken. What's really important is on this flank, I'm getting these free kills. I bring this unit down to like 80 men, and that's really good, especially for not having taken casualties with light. But light versus line doesn't work. So once he starts firing, I'm going to end up pulling back in a bit. So eventually his cav route, and I go ramming my cav. I split them into different sections to just try and get rid of all these light infantry that are going to get sacrificed, because he didn't do a good job of protecting his light infantry. Whereas on the reverse, well, I didn't realize this at the moment because I was fighting over here, which again is my mistake. Again, the middle, they're firing, but no one is taking... I guess I took a little bit of damage. I guess the hill kind of helped him a bit. I didn't notice it when I was playing it, that I was taking damage. So after this happens, I don't completely react to my cav being moved, but I move my Highland foot up to try and get an angle, you see. Let's see. We haven't initiated the move orders yet. So I have all these guys back here. We're not going to engage on purpose. So I realize that these men are not getting kills. Like my lights are getting pretty beat up for no good reason because of the hill. And I don't know what he's doing, but he turns to face the cav and doesn't realize that I have troops coming in on the side. So I just do a full retreat, which honestly was the right move. At first I thought, man, this is gonna suck.
The men are fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
Now I noticed that these men were fatigued, but I didn't quite understand because how can, like, they're all eager and stuff, you know, they're good to go, but they're just not doing the best job, which was confusing. So I do force this unit to pull back, which is very good. And over here, it's kind of just clean up. I bring my cav in. These militiamen are going to fire and such, and all my middle is just going to hold. No reason at all to bring that up. So I'm going to get my free shots at this. This unit really takes... This unit really takes a lot of damage. I had pulled one light infantry down, but I realized there wasn't going to be enough, like my line couldn't resist this on its own, and he does end up routing that. I do route that unit, but I realized I couldn't really do this without them, and even though it's not recommended to have your light infantry and stuff like fighting line, but with supportive line, I figured I would need it, so I get these guys moving into a more of a defensive position. Over here, I decide that his flank is exposed. He does go in square, which is why I don't bother bringing up my cav, so I can maybe get him to D-square and do something else. So I move up my Highland foot. These guys are totally fresh. Move up my fencibles. They're totally fresh. And most of my units are pretty undamaged. The main conflict is over here. And I do a bit of bad positioning with these light infantry. I was trying to get out of range of them, but they were doing constant fire, and that didn't help. My line infantry does hold. This unit is even untouched. And why is because of this hill and because of the cover of trees. So Cav ends up charging, and my ally lets me know because I was focused on moving on the left flank. So I retreat back first, and then I get in the square. My buttons weren't perfect. You know, I don't like to blame the game for my problems, but in this one instance I will have to say I did have trouble getting men in a square, which allows his men to get free shots, but that's the reality of it. But I decided, instead of pulling my light infantry all the way back, I leave them here to help get some shots, and of course this unit hasn't taken damage, so there's no reason to see they're firing at will and they're not in combat, because they're just not taking damage, and that's totally acceptable. And this is the only front I bother to deal with, because these two are going to move up, and I have nothing to worry about, because those Frenchmen, they're routing. They're not going to come back. So I move my horsemen over, because I'm thinking, okay, I got to get behind this line, you know, because I see that the general's there, and they're doing a good job of picking off my men. These guys are still at full health, surprisingly. Like I said, French line infantry, really, they're not going to do that much. Admittedly, we weren't doing as much damage either, but, you know, is Cav route, you know, I get rid of them, and then I'm back to using my superior advantage of being Great Britain. And, you know, I'm a bit out of form, so he could have, I think, rushed down here earlier to make me have to change my attention.
The men are fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I think it was the Cav, because we take damage. I go after his general, but I wasn't completely paying attention because I had just ordered them. I didn't notice the general retreat, so I'm going to lose that Cav, and this Cav is going to try and run, but pretty much both of our Cav are going to be exhausted, and that was not a good use of Cav. Honestly, if I could do this again, I would bring my Cav forward and charge them in and make him go into square, do the same thing to me. But fortunately, I have the flank. He does respond by doing noob square, but this isn't quite as bad because of this rock, so I can't get an angle on him. So it'll be a one-on-one, but my Highland foot are very good at doing their job, so they're going to do quite a number on them. And so these men, I realize I'm shooting my own men with my light, so I may decide I'm going to make a charge. I'm just going to move all my men in, because even though I don't know the melee stats of my light, I don't know if they're better or not, but I know that my light infantry need to get free shots in on his men. So he's going to come over with his general. The general has lost 3 units, which is helpful. So we're going to... The light infantry I'm having set up and get ready to make some good shots. And, at least get off a volley. But I end up, hitting my own men, and it kind of sucks.
Our men are running, sir.
Because of the angle. And that's just me not understanding the angles yet. So I am talking to this guy, and my partner, and he's like, hey, bro, you should... he's running these men over to help, because he's like, you're getting pushed on this flank. So I'm like, alright, sure, and I pull back. And that's totally fine, because I have these units engaged in melee, and these units don't chase after my light. They just deal with this, which are admittedly doing a good number. For only 80 men, they're fighting off a lot, I mean, they're pretty wounded. One's at 40 men. And so over here, while this line is engaged, I take my light infantry and try and outrange his Fusiliers, which is totally okay. That's totally fine. And I pull my light back, giving them ample time, and I actually will end up supporting my ally later on. So I'm getting my free shots. This is down to 99. Yeah, this one's down to 99, the one on the far right. And then as he sets up, I just pull back. There's no reason to do that. So I get these line into position. They're fully fresh. They're good to go. He will get some free shots, but that's the reality of it. And this militia unit does surprisingly well.
Running, sir.
Okay, so over here, my line infantry finally break from being in melee, which was to be expected. I knew I was going to lose those 2 units, which is totally acceptable. And admittedly, eventually I do bring my general over to this side, because I want to be able to make sure we can gun down these French. But you'll notice, with all these men engaged in melee, we've been able to rout them, and my ally gets his light foot. They're not in skirmish formation, but they do have that range, and they are going to be able to pick off the French. So I bring my light foot over to this side to help. Now, admittedly, his units were healthier. That's why he wanted to take that flank. So I had my weaker units supporting him, and we're just going to push up. We're talking about the cav over here, and I'm totally prepared to run if needed. But he moves up his Fusiliers, but they're still not going to be in range at all to deal with that. So over here, he's moving his line down. I don't even move these units, these are in a good angle. I don't have a noob square, because he's straight line, and I have angles, so there'll be more fire going towards one unit. And I will end up routing one of those units. So I get everyone firing. My lights are in skirmish formation, so they will not be shot by my line behind. And I can use that range and the power of my line, because he is only line, to just outmass him. And that's pretty much all I do. And I move my general over to support, and then I notice that the Highland Foot, this is perfect timing, ran out of ammo. And I don't react immediately. I'll admit I messed up again. I let him get free shots on my Highland. Yeah, that's not good, because their morale's pretty bad, because they have no ammo, and they're not really shooting. So I know the best way when you're losing is to just die slowly. That's the best way to do it. Even these light foot that were getting pretty chopped up, I just pull them back. And I make sure that these guys are not firing. Well, they're firing, but they're not, attacking. So I charge my Highland Foot, and they're pretty elite. They're good they're good units, which will give this fensible unit, surprisingly, the ability to just keep pounding on the French. And this works out in my favor, not to win the game or anything, but it does help. And over here, we had I had pulled back because of a cav charge, and now these light foot are moving up to resupport my French player, and I move in front of his because his men can't shoot my men in light formation. And look at all these units down here. These units are mostly untouched. And that's kind of what I was betting on, is the fact that even though I'm losing on this flank now, because it's a fensible unit, they're not going to win. I knew that. And then my opponent does something I don't understand. He goes into square formation. I don't know if he thought that I was going to somehow loop around him. But then at one point, I'm pretty sure my ally kills the other guy's general. Not this guy, the other guy. So I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to wail at this square, because square is much more vulnerable to gunfire. And maybe because he knew that we were starting to win on this side, and we kind of let this go because we're focused over here on routing at that point. And this is pretty much where the French player is going to make his stand, up in this region. And he makes sure to charge in on my fencibles, which the fencibles will break. There's no doubt about that. And I can pretty much understand that. And I get these guys to route because I have line lined up in a line. That's what they do. I mean, that infantry only lost one man. I mean,
running, sir.
It's tough. So then these guys run. But it's okay. Because while they're engaged in melee, I mean, they're running, but they will automatically fight if they get locked into combat, the individual units. So I'm talking to him. He brings up his light. Then I pull up mine. And we're just kind of reshifting. We're just going to push this flank really hard and try and get him. And this gives me great opportunity, because this hill is a major disadvantage to anyone who's on the side of the disadvantage. Because see, look, on the other side, it's balanced, you know, it's a hard climb. But this particular spot seemed very difficult, and that'd be the same as charging up this flank. Because of the way the hills are positioned, it's just a bit tougher to move up. So I'm finally able to move up the line infantry, and I get my lights in front. Because he's just in square. Now when they're in square, they have a good range of 125, so they can actually fire at my light infantry, which is important to note when an enemy is in square, which can be a tactic that is used in combination to make all your infantry being as effective as possible. And then I move up some foot in the middle, and notice I still have men who are really not doing anything. These two units will actually not be really participating in the battle, like at all. I won't even really use them. And I noticed the whole time, while he was playing, he had like units that I guess he thought routed but didn't bring back, which I thought was a very interesting choice to try and save them. I don't know if he was being conservative, so I put my lights in with my line. Don't do this because they're too close, and the odds of them shooting your light are just so common. But because I knew of the range 125, I was just being cautious, and I wanted to get these guys able to pull back in the event of his general charging me or an infantry charge, and then we get good volleys. That's my ally's light, who's in front, but I'm going to be moving up because my men are more wounded. That's how I know. I'm just going to be moving my men up, as you can see by the positioning. That's where I'm going. Then back here, I do end up moving. I mean, I get these guys in, like, to move down here. He uses general to inspire, which is great, but then I start getting the concave. And I get my general even moving up, because I'm getting ready to support in the final position. So I'm moving up my men. We're like moving in combination. And these these pretty much fresh units, I realized they weren't quite up in hill firing position. So I'm like moving up, and just now am I able to like fire, because before they were below, and my allies like, hey, you're not really firing. So I decided, yeah, you're right, and so I decided to reposition. Here's another example. I can barely see these units, but for these men, because of the way their arc is, they're going to be firing more at them than them, which can be an issue. But again, he was in square. If he was playing better, he would want to line his men. Even though it seems like you'd take more casualties being lined up, but you actually don't, because when you're in square, when you fire bullets at this, it'll go through. Any misses will have more likely chance to hit the men in the back. And so then we get a nice concave and do a surrounding assault. But you see how my point of this is that even with all this cav fighting going on in the back, I didn't push up the middle. I didn't overcommit my units until I really thought I could turn the tide in my favor. And admittedly, in part 2 also, you'll see what my ally did to help make it so we could have an overwhelming force. Because if it was just my men, imagine these aren't here, imagine it's only these units, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did because I wouldn't have my ally support. So it's thanks to his good play also that I was able to come out of it. And I want to say thank you to everyone who helped out in this battle. And I will now clearly, admittedly, I deployed more units than my opponents by at least 100 for each. And that is a part of it when you're deciding what to use. But overall, I think everyone did play a good game. They were trying their best, I think. And I want to thank my partner for helping me out when it was tough and showing that teamwork does kind of matter in 2v2. It's not two 1v1s. So I'm El Worfy, and I'll see you guys next time in part 2.